Hi, this is a conversation with Adriano Gianturco Gulisano, and he's a professor of political science and history of economic thought. Adriano, when one thinks about the Austrian School of Economics, one thinks of it in the field of economic science. But praxeology is the science of human action, which applies to other areas of human action. Can you tell us about the relationship between the Austrian school and politics?
Yeah, I think it's an important relation, actually. And I think Austrian school, it's more a methodology and a way to look at the human action and not a field of scientific investigation. Therefore, I think there is a lot of space for Austrian economics, for Austrian school, to look at political science. And actually, when you look at human action and in the political field, you see that coercion and all kind of political means are just some of the available means. So, and people like usually divided in different categories like politicians, bureaucrats, or even voters, they have the possibility to choose the coercion to and to use coercion to. So actually the same kind of logic of human action of maximizing and trying to make a better situation, to profit somehow, not in a monetary way, but in a more lato sensu way. It's completely applicable to political science too. And actually, in an Austrian view, there is no difference between one field and another one, between one discipline and another one. I would say it's Austrian school. It has, for sure, a multidisciplinary view, and I mean that difference between a discipline and another one is more an academic division than a scientific division. So for us, it's more a way to look how people act in the political realm, but. And so in the political realm, the difference with the economic one is that you have coercion and you can use coercion, and sometimes, maybe often, it's rational to use coercion for someone to aim their own goals. So I think from this point you can derive lots of implications and important conclusions, and then you can apply this to different cases on politics. But basically, I think that the importance is this. So, an Austrian view on political science, I think, would focus a lot on power.
Adriano, can we explore specific examples of current history or current events in terms of how does praxeology applies to political analysis?
Yeah, usually what I see is that usually the approach to political science and to political field in general, to politics, to political events in general, is quite idealist, or it's really let's say it's really normative and prescriptive. So common people, laymen, but also researchers and professors usually look at politics like, yeah, politics is the art of common good and this kind of stuff. But this is already a normative view, a prescriptive view. I think with the praxeology perspective, we focus more on the description of the events. So when we look at every current contemporary event, what we see is that actually politicians and bureaucrats and voters and everyone else who acts in the political field, they choose the power because it's rational and because they can profit with this. So, for example, it's a different way of looking every different all the different events. I would say that, for example, so it's when you understand this different view, I think it opens to you a completely different way of looking at politics. So, for example, if you look at wars, conflicts like U.S. government and U.S. and the Syria government now, for example, you don't see just malevolent people or rulers or something like that, but you see intentional actions to get a profit somehow, that in a military way, in a political way, in somehow, but and elections too. Of course, I think it's the main event, the main issue where we can apply this kind of view. So, for example, the electoral discourse, the electoral speeches, and the electoral campaign, it's not anymore something like about what people believe for real, for true. We cannot say that, we cannot affirm that in a scientific way, but it's how a candidate try to win elections. So even this kind of, so from international affairs to local affairs, I think it's important, this kind of view.
And what is the role of public choice in this perspective?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important because, again, it's one of the few approaches and scientific method that focus a lot on description of the events, of the logic of politics, and before then the normative aspect. So the public choice gives you a way to look at politics not without any positive or negative assumption on politics and political actors, but in a neutral way. So when you understand I see this a lot with students, for example, right? I mean, the point is usually people have again that idealist view, but when you internalize and understand that the public choice perspective, it gives you the way to the ability to understand the logic of politics and to forecast future events, and the tendency, of course, not the exact point, the exact event, because that's really difficult, that's another issue, but the logic and the tendency of politics, you can forecast this kind of stuff just with public choice, with Austrian school, with elitism, the elitist school, and this kind of approach that are basically neutral and descriptive.
Having said that, is there room for entrepreneurial action within politics?
Yeah, of course, for sure. I mean, and that's why there is some authors, some economists, some political scientists that focus a bit on political entrepreneurship, right? And public choice, for example, they do that a lot, for sure more than other schools. So if we start from a concept of entrepreneurship that is already difficult because there is a debate too, but usually Kirchner is a good point, a good start point, a good point for this. And public choice see that political entrepreneurship and a political entrepreneur is just an actor or an action that try to exploit an opportunity, a profit opportunity. The difference between the normal, the usual entrepreneurship and the political entrepreneurship is that the profit opportunity in politics is not always and per se a monetary opportunity. So you can gain power, you can become famous, and that's something. And political entrepreneurship has another difference with the economic one because. Let's say an economic one, in an economic point of view, you use your own means, or you persuade other people to give you, to lend you some means, resources, money, and capitals, and something else. But in the political field, this kind of action, it's coercive. So you take other means from other people in a coercive way, and you don't. So therefore, you don't have the rational, the economic incentive to use in a normal way this kind of resource. You spend more. You don't see when you have have profit, a negative profit, when you have losses. So there is no limit, basically. It's a zero-sum game, actually. It's not like in the economic realm.
Adriano, you are the author of a book about Kirchner and entrepreneurship. Is this book focused on economics, or it can also be applied to politics?
Well, the book is basically about the debate, the internal debate on Austrian school about entrepreneurship. Let's say, in a superficial way, we can say there are two sides. So the Kirchner side with Horvitz and other professors, and the other side with Hulsmann, Klein, and other professors too. So they debate on what is the entrepreneurship, and like something like what's the role of the entrepreneur, if he is really active, dynamic, or more passive and static, if he just discovers opportunity or if he creates new opportunities more or less out of nothing, even if it's not the right definition. And then the debate about so the capital, the uncertainty, and other stuff. And then there is a part on politics, because I tried to investigate some Kirchner paper on politics. Of course, it's not his focus, but let's say there is some paper about the morality of profit, the ethic of property, implications for bureaucrats, for lawmakers, for decision makers. So there is an attempt to see some political thought of Kirchner, let's say in this way, yeah.
Finally, if a student of politics, of political sciences approaches you and asks, how could I begin to understand this relationship between praxeology and political science, what would you recommend? Well,
I recommend to read Austrian School, that again, it's not only economics, and I suggest to read Public Choice, Italian School of Elitism like Pareto, Mosca, Gaetano Mosca, Roberto Michels, and I suggest to read also the Italian School of Public Finance like Einaudi, Pantaleoni, Puviani, all authors that had been studied by Buchanan actually when he went to Italy, and then he invented, let's say, public choice. He went to Italy and he discovered elitism and Italian School of Public Finance, that are two really important schools of thought, but today are more or less forgotten, let's say. And they give you again the same kind of the way of looking at politics in a simple descriptive way, without assumptions or of some positive or bad behavior of agent, basically. And I suggest to apply. What they see is that usually people have like a brain dichotomy. Like we reason in some way for economic issues, and then we reason in a completely different way for political issues. So like it's more or less common sense. You cannot spend more than you earn, but when it's applied to politics, then it changes completely your mind. So I just suggest, look, decide the way you want to think about, and apply to both fields, because actually they're not two different fields. And so if you try to look at politics like economics, in an economic way of thinking, right? And you can see that actually the usual part of politics that is studied, that is focused, is just a bit of marketing. So if you do if you apply the economic way of thinking to politics, and if you look like, if you have the mentality of like marketing, so you see that again, elections and campaign discourse and this kind of stuff are the marketing, right? The marketing part for politicians to aim some goals, and you apply just these two kind of stuff. I think you understand better politics, and you can forecast way better.
Adriano, thank you for sharing these ideas with us.
Thank you.
And thank you too